my class, looking at Unit 4, Activity 2, it's starting to get into not just finding a partner and having kids, but the idea of how a family functions. Within your content, you should notice the function of the families and even family and parenting roles. These have always been a very important part of this course. Coming from the Vanier Institute of the Family as a Canadian organization that studies the family, and they identified 6 functions of the family: taking care of family members, creating new members, socializing children, social control of the members who are in your group, production, consumption, and distribution of goods and services. That means you are a consumer in society and not just for the purpose of buying things and what that does for you, but that you are contributing to the economy. That's why it's important to study families. And last but not least, that our family is supposed to provide effective nurturance and love. So these are the things that a family is supposed to do to function effectively as a family and to be a contributing member of society. And so when you're looking at these functions of the family, the next one is to think about, in your own family, how do you divide the roles and how do you divide the tasks that need to be accomplished in order for those 6 functions to occur. And I know within my family growing up, we definitely had to take on extra roles. When I was 8, my father was in an accident that immobilized him. He became a paraplegic, and so us as kids, there was only my sister and I, and we needed to help out a little bit more because my parents needed the assistance. They couldn't take care of everything. So in terms of looking at the further extension of that is that my parents are immigrants from Northern Ireland and didn't have extended family in the area to take care of us or that they could call on to ask for help. In lieu of family and biological family, we had, sorry for the announcement interruption, we had a church family that often functioned as a family for us. So when it comes to dividing up the tasks, looking at who's going where, how do you pay for things, who disciplines, how do you decide discipline, how does the family work in order to accomplish these 6 tasks, which should be at the forefront of what you're thinking. A little while ago, I was actually surfing through Facebook, and I have subscribed to follow the Globe and Mail and the Toronto Star and a number of news organizations. I think this actually came from Globe and Mail, as well as the CBC covered something on it as well. And I thought it was interesting, directly connected to this course at the time that I needed it. And so the article that I found was called Boring and Normal, the New Frontier of Polyamorous Parenting. And so this was an interesting article because I know the term polygamy, and I know that from studying HHS. I've taught this course for over 12 years, so I know a bit about that from teaching the course. And more recently was the show Sister Wives that talked about the idea of having multiple partners and how that family functions. And it's somewhat of like approached as like a sideshow in a circus that everybody stares and wonders why and how it works. And so this was interesting because it was looking at polygamy or polyamorous parenting, the idea of having more than one partner living in the home, and not that it's a trend, but those identifying that they are polyamorous, the idea of having more than one partner is growing, that there's less of a taboo around saying it and identifying how it works. So to be clear, it's not that they are legally married to more than one partner. It's the practice of having more than one consensual, intimate relationship at a time. And in this particular case, it's a woman who's married to her husband, but she also has an additional partner, a male, living in the home. And so what they talk about is their relationship in that she's married to her husband. There's another partner that she is romantically and intimately involved with, and they all parent the children. So what I've done here is I've taken the article, put it into a Google Doc, and I highlight and then make a comment over here at the side to summarize some of the key articles or even questions that I have. And this is a useful skill to break down and close read information that you're given to make it meaningful to you and to remember what exactly you read. Stephanie, her husband, and she brought in a work partner that she was romantically involved with, and he also lives in the home. The original wife and husband have 2 kids that they all parent together. And in this particular case, they were looking at this situation, polyamorous relationships, not necessarily as a trend. That's why I put a question mark. It's not suddenly something everybody's doing, but it was looking at redefining the family. And what it said about polyamorous relationships was that the LGBTQ community actually redefined the family, and that they paved the way so that polyamorous families can be a growing trend, or that they can feel more comfortable in identifying that they are a polyamorous family. Canadian Statistics Canada, so Canadian statistics about the family is definitely not showing polyamorous relationships or situations in their census. They still don't recognize it. So a lot of the statistics in this article are actually coming from American statistics. So there was a case, however, in Canada where being polyamorous was declared not a reason to say that you're an unfit parent. So it was a husband and wife divorced, and the husband was polyamorous and that he had multiple partners, and the ex-wife tried to take him to court to say that he was an unfit parent. And the courts actually ruled that being in a polyamorous relationship did not mean that it was detrimental to the children. And this is key to understanding not just whether or not you accept or understand polyamorous relationships, but how they function as a family. So when we look at new changing family forms, the bigger question is not whether we agree, but whether they accomplish these tasks. And in fact, as proven by the course in that course case, sorry, having trouble talking, that that it's been proven that these families function, and that becomes the reason, not whether or not we agree with having more than one partner. So it just goes through some statistics in terms of 20%, 21% of Americans engage in some form of consensual non-monogamy, meaning that they have an open relationship. And again, Canadians don't track these statistics, so we don't necessarily know. The taboo is changing so that people feel more comfortable, and that in this article it actually identified benefits to the family in having a polyamorous situation. The kids get more attention. This was coming from children within a polyamorous relationship. Kids get more attention. The adults have more free time because there's more adults helping raise the children. You can have 2 income and have a stay-at-home parent, and more adults to help socialize and build emotional maturity for the children. So those are some needs that we can identify when we look at the needs of members, that they are able to meet those needs. So I just thought it was an interesting article about something that's happening, the changing forms of Canadian families, how we're recognizing them, but ultimately how at the end of the day accomplishing those functions of the family is the most important part that we need to pay attention to when we look at the functions of the family.